Okay, so while I work on one of a number of other Fire Emblem videos, I'm going to do a little roster duster based around Fire Emblem. And yeah, don't worry, the roster duster on MK Arenas Part 3 will happen eventually. It's just, unfortunately, some of the files got corrupted and I have to do the whole thing again, which includes the finale of the whole thing, and I just can't be arsed at the minute. So, what I'm going to be doing here is doing a roster duster for Fire Emblem Warriors and Fire Emblem Warriors 3 Hopes. See, basically, the original Fire Emblem Warriors was just a crossover primarily between 3 of the games in the series, the 2 most recent at the time, and the original, as well as a couple of other characters. Then they were going to do a direct sequel that would have added some characters from 3 houses, because Koei Tecmo works on 3 houses. But then they decided instead to make an alternate universe version of 3 houses that is a Musou game, and that's 3 Hopes. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut half the rosters of each game and imagine what you could do with a future Warriors. I mean, I'm sure if they do another Fire Emblem Warriors in the future, they are absolutely going to have a lot of 3 houses reps. I mean, Engage 2 probably, but a lot of 3 houses stuff is obviously going to make it in. The same way that the original one was somewhat dominated by Fates. That's like half the roster. Maybe I could just cut the Fates cast and just have the ones from the good games. No, I'm not going to do that. So I guess we'll start with some of the original Fire Emblem Warriors characters. First off, there's some characters that have to be there. You have to keep Marth, you know, you have to keep Robin and Corrin. But it's a matter of choosing which one. I mean, when you look at the avatars, it's like, it just makes sense to axe one of them and keep the other. And I don't know about anyone else, but I don't know if it's mainly because of this game, the way it did the story mode, but to me, I had a few Robin as male and Corrin as female. That just seems to be what gets the most focus. I mean, female Corrin, she's in everything. She's the one they used in Engage. These two aren't balanced the same way that Byleth is, where it's roughly even. Like, there's clearly a bias towards... I mean, just today that I'm recording, the results for the big vote for Fire Emblem Heroes came out, and male Robin and female Corrin were up there. So they're going to be getting new alts for Choose Your Legends. So I think a lot of people view it that way. I don't know why that is. It'd be interesting to see why people view it that way, if it's just because other people do, or if it's because of their own personal experiences. Maybe it's because they played Awakening first and they were like, well, I'm a guy, I'm going to go male, and they want to do different with female. Or maybe they figured, well, the main character's not wearing shoes, I'd rather that be a woman. You know, it could be any number of reasons. Don't tell me foot jobs all day. Let's move on. So obviously I'm also going to keep these 2, because I'm not entirely sure why they did this, but while the game and its story focuses on those 3 games, it also has Lyn and Celica. Celica because her game was being remade around that time as Echoes, so it makes sense, but then they just threw in Lyn because she's popular, and that's it. That's the entire reason they threw in Lyn. Those characters are all going to stay, want to represent as much of the franchise as possible. In a somewhat similar vein, I'm also going to throw in Anna, because for some reason, well, this tier list doesn't have, and I don't know what the exact criteria is, because it's characters from the game, but it's not the playable characters, because, you know, this dude isn't playable in the game, and neither is this dude. I don't think this one is either. Alois isn't, unfortunately, but they are playable in 3 houses, so I thought, well, that must be the criteria. Characters who are playable in houses and Hopes, but focusing on the Hopes versions. But no, that's not the criteria. You can tell because Anna's not here. So we need to have an Anna, so we're going to go with the Warriors version. I mean, really, it could be any Anna. Anna's one of those characters who really would work well for this, because you can just throw in all these other costumes from past games. I'm surprised they didn't do that for Warriors. Like, they did these packs based on each of the games represented, and yet none of their versions of Anna are available as costumes for her. Bullshit. All of it. So obviously you have to keep your boy Chrom and your girl Lucina. They have to stay. Tiki kind of gets a free pass just because she's a very popular character. I don't know why she is quite as popular as she is. Probably just because she is a lolly, which means, you know, child that people are attracted to, unfortunately. But she is very popular, that can't be denied, so she would stick around. Plus, she's the only character in the game who has the Dragon Stone, so she actually has a unique moveset. A lot of the characters share specific moveset types. There are some who are relatively unique, but I don't think even Marth has a unique moveset just to himself. And so when you have a character who's just Dragon Stone, yeah, we're going to go with that. Now, to flesh out the Fates roster a bit, obviously we have to have the main dude from each faction. plus Azura. That's 4 already for Fates. See, this is why Fates got such a large part of the roster, not just because it was the most recent one, but because of the way the game is built. You have the main character, then you have 4 main royals from each of the 2 factions. I've talked about this in another video before, so I won't get too much into it, but what I'm going to do is cut down the main royals, just to avoid the roster getting too same. I mean, I know naturally if they were going to do a Warriors 2, they would keep those characters on. Like, Niles and Obero would have a lot smaller chance of making, I mean, they're DLC in this, for a start. They'd obviously have a much smaller chance of making it onto the roster compared to these characters, but I want things to be a bit more interesting. Stuff like that is why Fire Emblem crossover rosters have a bit of an issue when it comes to being interesting. So if I'm going to pick just one of the royals from, let's say for now, I'm going to put these 2 on, just to have a bit more variety, like I said. So we've already got an archer in Nile, so I guess we can just get rid of Takumi. We're going to have one of these 2 with the little magic staff, which leaves Leo. I think it would have to be Camilla, because again, like, just because she is so popular, like, she, you know, like Lynn, I think she and Lynn have the most alts in Heroes, where it's like 8 a piece or so. And that's the balancing act of roster dust. It is not just what I want, it's also what makes sense, what is absolutely vital, and what people would want. So yeah, Camilla would pretty much have to make it on there. So now we have these 2 to choose from. Well, we could go with Sakura just because Elise isn't on the roster, and there you have the staff, and no one else has that. On the similar vein of being interesting and unique, Olivia gets on there because she's the dancer. We'll come back to it. Since we have Camilla, we've already got a dragon riding axe wielder, so we don't really need Minerva. I don't really care for Navarre. He just seems kind of edgy and standoffish for no reason. But now comes the subject of the Pegasus Knight. There are 3 of them. We have 3 of them here, which is a lady with a Pegasus and a spear. So since we have to get rid of a bunch of characters, one of them is going to have to go. You know, I'm inclined to pick Cedar just so that Fire Emblem 1 can have more representation, because in the base game there were 4 of them and we got 1 as DLC who appeared. No wait, was Minerva in the story? I think she was, but I don't quite recall. She may have just been a DLC only. Damn. Okay, so I guess these 2 can then go, and Sakura can stay. Oh yeah, I'm going to keep... Yeah, well, these are... Despite the looks, these are actually 2 separate characters. Yeah, you would look at them and think, oh, this must be the male and female avatar. No, they are distinct characters. They just don't look as distinctive as the brother-sister duo from Heroes. So I'll keep those 2, which means that all these characters have to go, unfortunately. I think Niles and Obero have to go as well, actually, to make up numbers. Oh, no. That's a shame, because I quite like some of these characters, but you do have to try and represent as much as you can. So as it is, we've got 3 characters from the first game. These 2 standalone. We've got Anna as her standalone self. Then we have 4 characters from Awakening. Then Fates gets 6, but, you know, to be fair, you kind of have to. But then I have to get rid of one of them. And if I get rid of Azura, then that means there's no representation for the Revelation route. Just Conquest and Birthright. So the choice is either let Fates continue to dominate the roster and have twice as many as either of the others by getting rid of Olivia, or maybe Lucina, or I can get rid of one of these. Okay, let's say I get rid of these 2 and just have Corin and then main rep for each of the 3 routes. Okay, so that's 4. Then we have 4 from Awakening, and then Shadow Dragon has 3 currently, so I can add another one for that, which means I'm down to Minerva, who now can be on the roster simply because we got rid of big titty, big sis, step sis GF, I guess is what... I'm pretty sure, I'm pretty sure Corin can romance her. I don't know for sure, but I'm scared to look into it. But then the other option is Lind, who, she is one of the funniest inclusions, because I remember reading a thing where the producer or director was talking about the choice to include her as part of the DLC. and oh, you might be wondering why I'm not including Navarre. I don't like Navarre, so it's just between these 2. But... It's just like, I should try and have a good balance of men and women, actually, now to think about it. I'll think about that in a minute. But the point is, the director or producer mentioned one of the reasons to include her is because she has sexy feet. Because I think originally she didn't wear shoes, but later redesigns gave her sandals. And I'm like... on the one hand, it's kind of impressive for someone to be that open with this kind of stuff. But on the other hand, it's like, dude, please stop. So we have to pick one of these 2, the actually good characters from this game. I guess... Well, we have Robin as the spellcaster. Yeah, I don't think Robin actually had a unique moveset, like sword and tome, the way he does in Smash, which would have been cool. So I guess Minerva, yeah. that's a pretty decent roster. I mean, I know people would want more characters to be like, oh, where's my little my Emoto GFs and my big titty big sis GF and my dark mage stalker potentially wants to kill me yandere GF. Or some weirdos out there probably like, yo, where's my Chunibyo BF? I'm like, guys, come on, have higher standards. And then rearranging the cast by gender, there's a bit of an imbalance. But there's not a ton I can do about that because I'm trying to have the characters that most represent each individual game while also having a good variety of movesets. You know, I could swap out one of these ladies, but then their moveset is unrepresented, and then Navarre's just, I think he's just a basic sword boy or something. I'm doing my best, okay? So now we move on to Three Hopes. There's some characters that you have to include right off the bat because there are some key characters that just need representation no matter what. You know, normally I'd say, fuck Raya, all my homies hate Raya, but you kind of have to have the faction leaders here. Like, even if you don't like, say, Xander from Fates, you can't deny that he would need to be here for this big crossover because of how substantial a role he has. Now it comes time to picking the Byleth and Shez gender. For my playthroughs recently of Three Houses, I stuck with female the whole way through. So maybe it's a bit of a bias there, but also because Three Hopes had male Shez and female Byleth as the main thing. So, and I like female Shez. Male Byleth hasn't left much of an impact on me at this point. Now, this choice might be controversial, but I really like Alois. I didn't when I played Hopes, because I played through Hopes first and then Houses. Because Alois is just an NPC, and all he does is just make jokes, and the only person who finds him funny is Geralt, and that's it. That's his entire character. But when you play Three Houses, he gets a lot more time to shine because he's actually a playable character. There are more story opportunities because of his relationship with Byleth, and Byleth being the main character rather than a supporting character. And so him being connected to Byleth lets him really shine. I like Alois a lot. I think Hopes really did him dirty. I feel like of all the characters, he's probably the one who's done the most dirty by Hopes, but I like him a lot, so I'm going to keep him. Now I'm going to try and pick 2 reps from each house, because I want to try and have a couple. Oh yeah, I guess Yuri would have to be the one to represent the Ashen Wolves. So I'm going to try and pick 2 more reps from each other house other than Ashen Wolves. They're going to get 1. Most of the characters in the houses, so I can probably get at least 4 per house, but for now I'm going to focus on this. A lot of people will probably just go automatically to put the second in commands in, but like the second in commands are Hubert, Dedu and Hilda, 3 characters I don't really care for personally. So I'm going to keep Petra. I like her a lot. Lysithea is one of the best characters in the game, period. And see, Blue Lions is where I struggle because Blue Lions are a cast it never really gripped me. I like most of the Golden Deer generally, and the Black Eagles is my favourite of the houses. I think it has the most solid cast. But honestly, Blue Lions, I'd love to know what other people see in Blue Lions if that's their favourite house, because I just cannot fathom it. Oh, actually, I think Holt should get a slot just because he is a Hopes exclusive character, so, you know, being a Warriors exclusive character, he should get a bit more priority. And for Ashen Wolves, it's Constance. Constance is one of the best characters. She's so fun. Even though she has like this weird anime character gimmick, I like her a lot. I'm not entirely sure about Sothis and Arvol because they're not really fighters, and when you play as them, like by default, they're just magic users, so I don't really care for them. It is a shame that the Black Eagles are my favourite faction because I like quite a few of the characters from the church as well. And, you know, by default, they're enemies of the Black Eagles, and if you go down the Black Eagles route, some of them have to be enemies, which is a shame. Yeah, Sesseth is another character I really started to like when I started playing Three Houses, and my Byleth ended up marrying him in the church route. It was a real shame that Flayn didn't end up in an ending with anyone else. She just left, disappeared into the world, and had nothing to say about her father's new wife, her new stepmother. Same with my final playthrough, where Sesseth ended up marrying Manuela. Like, Flayn can get a new stepmom and have nothing to say about it. Why? Now, unfortunately, Flayn herself, I'm going to put her in TBA, because she's not one of those characters I would automatically get rid of, but, you know, she's not like a Cyril or a Gatekeeper. No, I'm just going to get rid of these 2 straight away, actually, because there are so many other characters that I'd rather have on the roster than them. They can just stay as NPCs inside their heads, and that's fine. They don't need any more substantive role. Linhardt is an absolute chad. It did make my second playthrough, I think, or my third, really weird, because I ended up getting a lot of the supports throughout those playthroughs, and Linhardt ended up with so many supports where the A support has some romantic hinting, like Lysithea and some of the girls in his house. I think Marianne as well, and it's like Linhardt's like a harem anime protagonist, and because he's bisexual, either version of Byleth can be a part of that. It's so weird. I like Annette. She's fun and cute when she's singing, and at least is some of her best supports. Ash and Ingrid are two characters where I like them both, but I feel like they work better in sets with other characters rather than by themselves. Like, these two together are so fun. Their supports where they're gushing about the books they like. Like, I want to see those two in Heroes start up a book club where all the other characters who like reading from the other games are just comparing books from different worlds and gushing about it. That'd be so fun. So I'm going to keep both of them. Dedue's kind of dull. He has his moments. Same with Felix, or Felix is kind of grating. Even in the Blue Lions route in Three Houses, where you know he's right, he's always making a good point. He's just such an asshole about it. He like me, for real, for real. I don't really care for the two dads. I mean, it's nice that they have some presence and are trying. I do want to see mothers. The only mother in this entire roster is Sothis. And that is... That's just weird. I should probably get on with it though. So I'll put in one more of the Black Eagles and one more Golden Deer to make up numbers. For the Golden Deer, Marianne. I'll go Holston's without Hilda. And then I'll take Bernie. You know, it really wasn't a difficult choice or something I regretted when I picked the Black Eagles first in both games. Because, yeah, they just have the best characters. I guess I'll get rid of Ferdinand and Caspar. And Dorothy. Dorothy is really popular and I don't really get it. There are some of these supports, like with Ferdinand and Lawrence, where I'm like, I feel like she's been a bit too harsh for no reason. Like, I get it, I understand her motivations, but like, fucking calm down. I don't really care for Lawrence, admittedly, or Ferdinand. I'm just saying. Hanneman, it wasn't a big loss when he wasn't playable in Hopes. I don't really care for Yuritsa, to be honest. I feel like his whole "I want to fight you to the death" shtick gets really old. You know, I like Geralt well enough, but I feel like there are other characters who would be better served. I'll hold on to him just in case I need to make up numbers outside of the houses. Raphael and Ignatz can go. I mean, I don't mind them. my Byleth married Ignatz in my 4th playthrough, mainly because they didn't have many choices as the female, to be fair. But Leonie's okay, but she does go on about Geralt a bit too much, and she's like, "You don't even appreciate being Geralt's daughter, you bastard, Byleth." And it's like, see, if Byleth had a character, it would have been so funny for Byleth to just say, "Alright, you're getting detention." Did they even have detention at Garreg-Mach? I don't know. I'll get rid of Sylvain. Yeah, I'll get rid of Sylvain. So as it currently stands, I can erase 4, keep 3, and then there's 1 left over. And so what I do with an odd number, it just kind of depends how I'm feeling at the time. Sometimes like, I want to challenge myself and get rid of an extra character. Sometimes I'm like, I'll take this lifeline, please. And this one, I think I'll take the lifeline. So I'll add 1 more character to each house. Okay, I'll say 4 and add 1 more character to each of the houses. So I will add... Honestly, when it comes to the Ashen Wolves, I feel like Happy is kind of the weakest link. I think she does offer a lot to the story through her connections to both Edelgard and Dimitri's backstories. But as an individual, And I know that one guy, there's this guy who commented recently saying, "Oh, I see, your Johnny, Sonya and Jax episode of Wasted Potential. Yeah, of course you got rid of the only 2 black characters in Mortal Kombat, because I said I'd get rid of Jax and Jackie in favour of characters who have more to contribute to the narrative." And this person was like, eventually remembered that Garrus is in the game. It's like, "Oh yes, the slave, of course you'd keep him." And then I said, "Well, yeah, how about Jade, Tanya, Darius and Kai?" And they're like, "Oh, well, 2 of those aren't in this timeline. The other 2 are dark Asian." I'm like, what part of Asia? The part where Egypt resides, you fucking cretin. And they made a similar kind of comment on... God, what video was it now? Yeah, it was Tekken Bloodline. Because I got rid of Leroy. It's like, oh yeah, the one black character in Tekken. I'm like, yes, Leroy, the one black character from Tekken. Because Tekken didn't have any black characters before Tekken 7's DLC. Like, it's not like Tekken 3, the game being adapted by the show, had Eddie Gordo. There's 1 more rep per main house, and as has been dictated already, I'm not necessarily going to keep any of the second-in-commands. I could, but I don't have to. Like, I'm not going to keep Dedu. I don't care. So it's between... See, Mercedes is another one of those characters that seems quite popular, but I don't get it personally. But I need another Blue Lions rep, so... I also need to try and balance things out with some more men, so... I guess I'll drop Shamir and... Wait, well, actually he's... Yeah, actually Alois counts as a church rep. The church has... But then again, in Hopes, he's not really with the church that much. He's part of Geralt's... I'll come back to this. But the church does have 5 reps, so I suppose... Bring back Happy. Drop Shamir. and drop Gerald, and then drop Flane, which means I need to drop one more. I might actually have to drop another of the church characters now I think about it. Yeah, one of the church characters will have to go. I'll think about that in a minute. For now, I'll just focus on the houses. So for the blue lines, I'd rather it be one of the actual members of the house, one of the actual students. Hulse is an exception because, again, Hope's exclusive character. But for blue lines, I'd rather be one of these three. An actual student character, a character who's noteworthy in both games. So I suppose I'll start looking into it in terms of movesets. So we've already got an axe user. We have... There's not actually that many sword users, and most of those are in somewhat unique classes. These two are more like the trickster assassin types. These two have unique classes. I suppose these two are pretty similar, and so Felix doesn't offer anything unique in that regard. We have an axe user and a mounted spear user, so... Oh, we have two axe users, although Alois might end up having to go. I like Sylvain just a bit more, so he can stick around, and these two can go. So now we're on to the Golden Deer, where there are actually 5 to choose from, so I've got more options. Don't really care for Laurens again. It would be weird to have Hulse without Hilda, in the same way that having Leone without Geralt would be a bit weird, so I guess I'll keep Hilda and get rid of these guys. Plus, like the things they offer are offered elsewhere. I don't get why Leone's default weapon though is like her main thing is going to be a... Oh, I forgot that Mercedes. Not a huge loss, to be honest. But yeah, why is Leone? Like she's constantly going around with like a quiver of arrows for her war variants, and despite that fact, her default class is a lance user. I think it's really weird. I mean, at least in houses she can use both. I think with certain classes, with Hopes you can't though. It's like Sun Shang, honestly, that the bow princess who doesn't use bows outside of her Muso attacks. We don't count Dynasty Warriors 6. So now we have the Black Eagles. Now, I think out of the 4, I probably like Caspar the most, but he can be a bit more grating than the others. Like if you were to go through all of one character's supports, he would be a bit more annoying, I think. Ooh, okay, so I've decided this is kind of cheating, and it's completely arbitrary, but I'm looking at this and realising there's at least one moveset from 3 Hopes that we don't have represented here. See, Dark Mages just use the same movesets as normal mages, but with a different element, I believe. And there are plenty of guys on horseback with lance. But what we don't have is a dancer. Now technically, again, any of these characters could be trained as a dancer. You can do that with any character. But Dorothy is kind of like designed to be the easy dancer character. I mean, I had her as my dancer in I think 3 playthroughs. Because you don't have to put time into it. You can just recruit her and then just say go and do it. And because I think she just has the highest charm stat, so she's just designed to be the easy character to do it. So I'm imagining for the purposes of this hypothetical game, she would be the dancer character for the 3 houses / Hopes cast. So now I have to choose... So to make things a little clearer, we now have our 2 avatar characters. And we have 5 characters for each of the houses. We have 5 characters for the church, and we have the Ashen Wolves. Now, while there are a lot of points in 3 houses where the church is treated as more substantial a part of the story than the titular 3 houses, I think that's stupid. So I'm going to get rid of one of the church characters. Now, you can't get rid of Rhea, unfortunately. Well, then again, she's completely absent from the war phase in 3 houses outside of the Black Eagles route. And while she's still around throughout the war in 3 Hopes, she doesn't really do anything until the end. And that's only if she's a final boss. I don't think she's part of the finale in the Blue Lions route. So I guess, to reiterate, fuck Rhea. All my homies hate Rhea. And I know some people are like weak to wide hips and, get help. So that's the roster here. Okay, so the gender balance is actually better than I expected it to be. I thought there were going to be a lot more of the ladies, but... Okay, so our final roster is like this. The 2 siblings from Fire Emblem Warriors, Marth, Cedar, Minerva, and Tiki from Shadow Dragon and the numerous versions of that story, Celica from Gaiden / Echoes, Lynn from the Blazing Blade, male Robin, Crom, Lucina, and Olivia from Awakening, female Corin, Ryoma, Xander, Azura from Fates, and Anna, just because you have to have an Anna. And then from 3 houses / Hopes, we have male Shez, female Byleth, the 3 house leaders, Bernadetta, Dorothea, Linhart, Petra, Ash, Sylvain, Annette, Ingrid, Hilda, Marianne, Lysithia, and Holst, Seteth, Catherine, Manuela, and Alois, and Yuri, Balthus, Constance, and Happy. I am happy with that roster, ha 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 ha. And I can just tell some people like, yo, Alois, why is he here? Get him out of here. And I say no. Alois is the based big bro character for Byleth, and I will not put up with any slander towards my boy on this Christian YouTube channel. So fuck off.